Hello, all my crafty people out there. It's time for our weekly project. If you haven't been here before, my name is Stephanie and I upcycle clothing. Generally items I find at my local thrift stores, sometimes estate sales, and we either make new clothing or accessories or something in between. Today we are making an accessory. I have been in the mood to make a good denim bag for a while. And I think I found, I think I've got a design in my head that will work. Yeah, you know how that is. Anyway, I have a good pair, or a good old pair of Levi's. And I like the pockets on them, but I don't know if we're going to use the pockets or not. If not, I have another project. So, and these have these big silver tabs. They're kind of cool. They're boot cut. So plenty of fabric, and one of my many ties, but I really like this one. It's so pretty and paisley, and I love the colors. So I think we're going to use this along with a pile of scraps that I have been curating over the years. So if you want to see how it goes, by all means, like, subscribe, follow along. Let me know what you think, and I will catch y'all at the table. Okay, everybody, before we get into the nitty-gritty details of what we're going to do with this, I wanted to show you something that I do with my stringy scraps. Usually, it's like I don't know, salvage sides, all kinds of stuff like that. And I keep them on this. Now, I've made this for something. It's just 2 snaps on a piece of fabric. And I don't remember what I made it for. But I used it to hold all of my little stringy scraps. Now, I use this to do everything from tie up scraps of fabric to put in my scrap bin to this kind of project. So it's useful. Don't throw away those little long scraps. They have a purpose too. So I'm going to put that back on my board. And the next thing we need to do is figure out what we're going to do with these pants. Now, obviously, I want to use the legs. Well, maybe it's not obvious. Some people like to use the top half, and that's perfectly fine too. But in this particular case, I'm going to use the bottom. And I like the seams, so I'm going to try and keep these seams, but I'm going to open up the side seams. And I want my bag to be, let's just gauge it. This is 15 inches here. And I think that would be tall enough. But I'm going to go ahead and cut it off around this 12 mark. So I'm going to cut 12 inches off of both of the ends of these pants. And because I'm giving myself a little leeway there as far as how tall or how tall I want the bag, I am going to also give myself a little leeway by pulling off 12 inches as opposed to the 15 that I'll probably end up using. Now, do I find this wasteful? No, because these jeans were headed somewhere else. They're not in great shape, and they, someone rearranged the button up top, so I don't know, it's kind of weird looking. So, let's see, this was, use my 30 mark so I can, this was 15, and then this is the 12, so I think that's where I'm going to, which makes it a total of what, 15, 16, 17, 18 inches. So we'll cut it off here, and then we'll figure out how much of them we're going to need. Okay, got them separated. They're kind of long, but that's okay. I'm not going to use the whole length of them. But you can see my issue right now is it's jeans. So they're curvy at the bottom and at the knee and everywhere else that they've been bent and shaped. So what I want to do is I want to put the front and the back together at this seam. I want to use this seam. I don't want it to go away. However, in order to make it straight, I'm going to fold this back. I'm going to show you what it's going to look like. This will be the front and this will be the back. And then these two hems are straight and I can sew across them. So we'll do the same thing with this one. Stick with me. It's going to make sense. I hope. So I'm just folding that over so it doesn't show. But again, we're meeting these hems. We want those hems to meet because I'm going to sew across the bottom of those. I'm going to maintain those hems. And we're going to sew this and the back together. So we're going to sew these two seams together and whatever back seam there is when we cut off this excess to make our bag. And of course, we'll have an open bottom until we close it up so we can put our lining in and everything without having to worry about leaving a hole to turn things and stuff like that. So this doesn't make a lot of sense yet, but I want to make a bag that's about, probably about 15 inches tall. So about that tall from here down. And then I want to V it from each side and make that the center of the V. And then I'll put the handles on the side. That's just a short explanation of my crazy idea. Let's see how we put it together. Okay, so I think what the first thing I want to do is make sure that I've got the same amount of fabric on each side and that these hemlines, again, are meeting. I think there's about 6 inches in length on the short front end of the jeans, or the short back end. That might be the back, I guess. So I want to just make sure. The main part is having these hemlines meet. Okay, that's my main concern. All right. Now let's just gauge. This is right down here at the hemline. We're almost 7 inches. 7 inches. Up here at the top, 6 inches. And if we pull out that seam, which is what we've got on the other side, 6 inches. Okay. So this is actually good as far as measurement goes. I'm going to pull that seam out because I want to keep it there. We're going to use it to seam it back together because it's dark and I don't want to lose any more fabric. So I'm just checking one more time. Yep. Yep. Okay. So we're going to cut right here. Whew, getting caught up on that seam. And making sure that our hemline is meeting like that. This is kind of fiddly because of that seam, and I could iron it and be smart, but yeah. Anyway. So we're just going to cut on the outside, right on the outside of that seam that is already there. And I left the hemline in it because, like I said, I want to use it. So that's one side. And then it's easier to cut from this side because I be right-handed. Let's cut right here. Okay. Now, let's just do a quick measure up, see if we're close. If not, we can make a little bit of adjustment. But looks like we're pretty spot on. Excellent. And here too. Good. Okay, before we sew these two together and start to make our bag and shape it to what we want it to be, you know. So, I want to do some decorating, and this is the best time to decorate it when it's just flat and open. And I have found this collar in my stash. I am not 100% sure where this came from, but it's a lace collar that somebody obviously took off of a dress or a blouse or something. And it's got these beautiful corner pieces, which I've already taken one off so I can show it to you up close. And it's really just pretty, you know. So I thought these would be really neat in the corner of each of our front pieces. This is our front pieces. So fold it up like that so we can just see it as the front. And I thought these would be really, like I said, pretty in the corners. And I've just got to pluck the other one off of this corner, and then I'll be able to add it to here. Okay, I've thought about different ways that I can attach this lace to the jeans, and I think since these are older and they don't have any adhesive on the back where they're iron on, I'm going to have to add some adhesive. Now, this is some stuff I got at the Hoblob. This is not an advertisement, but it's called Quilt Basting Spray by June Taylor. So I think that I'm going to give this a whirl. It's not supposed to gum up my machine, so let's see if we can just... I just want to lightly spray it. I don't want it to be overly tacky, but something that'll stick to my fabric. And it's supposed to be something that you can what am I thinking? Move. In other words, I could pick it up and move it if I wanted to. It's supposed to hold it in place. It's already tacky. So kind of put it here. And then once I get it in the right position, both of them in the right position, then I can take them to the machine and sew them down. It's going to be a challenge, but at least this stuff should help them stay in place. Okay, we also need to make our lining, and I have picked out this piece of fabric. It's not particularly fancy, which sometimes I like my lining to be fancy, but in this case I'm okay with it being a little understated. It goes with the green in my tie, and I like a darker color for my lining because, I don't know, it gets messy. And this will conceal any messiness for a little longer. I think it'll look really nice in here. And I only need to take just one of our pants legs and measure it because this is 2 layers. And that will give us the 2 pieces we need to make the lining. Okay, we've got our lining cut out. And yes, it looks kind of trapezoid, but it's okay because so do our pants legs. It's going to work out. What I want to do is I want to sew one of the seams together here. And the reason I'm going to do that is I want to add the pocket. But the pocket is going to go over this seam because the seams are going to be in the front. Remember, we're going to have seams in the front here that go together and the seam in the back. It's because we saved the side seams for the sides of the purse. So we're going to do the same thing with the lining. We're going to put this seam in right here, and then when we make our pocket, we can put our pocket over the center of this seam, which again will be either the front or the back of the bag. I don't really care which side my pocket goes on. I generally put it to the back, but it doesn't really matter. As far as the pocket goes, this is roughly about I don't know, about 9 inches by 13, oddly enough. It's just what I cut, but you can cut your pocket any size you want. I'm going to go over there. I'm going to put it together like this. We're going to sew up and over, and I'm going to leave the side open so we can turn it out, and then we'll top stitch it when we put it down on the, we'll top stitch it, but then we'll put it down on the lining. Okay, I've got the two sides of my lining sewn together just down one seam, and I pressed it open. And I also made my little pocket. And yes, it's the same color. You can make it a different color if you want. I kind of like mine the same, but if you want it to stand out, I understand that. And also pressed my seams open because I want to make this less bulky if possible, because it's already going to be denim. So I know I want to make my purse about 15 inches high at its peak on the sides, okay? But I'm also going to come down about 5 inches for the angle of my V in the top. So since this will be the front and these will be the sides, I want to take this and I want to put it below that V mark. And so it's going to be kind of low. So I think I'm going to just do it 3 inches up from the bottom. So I'm going to go ahead and fold it in half. And that will let me get my center mark, just so it's easier to put on the seam, because we're centering this over the seam. All right. So let's just see, that's centered, and I'll pull it up a little bit. That's about 3 inches right there. This is an eyeball thing. You can do it as high or low as you want. Just make sure, like I said, when you get to that 15-inch mark and you come down 5 inches for the V, you don't want to cut off your pocket, obviously. Okay, next step. We're going to take our lining and we're going to sew down the other side. That will either be our back or front seam, depending on where we want the pocket. So we're going to sew down this seam. And for the lining, we're going to go ahead and sew across this seam as well. So this and this, and it's kind of closing it up, but that's okay because remember, our bottom of the purse is going to be open for us to be doing the turning. So that, and then we're going to go ahead and sew these two together as well, but we're just sewing the side seams on this. So we'll sew the side seams, or it's really hard to say that. They're not the side, they're going to be the center of the pieces, but for this purpose, as you can look at it, it's going to look like the side seam. Okay, I have cut this down to 15.5 inches long. This is the outside of our purse. Oh, and one note, I think when I showed you earlier how this needed to be sewn together at the bottom, I think I had these two seams folded like this, and they didn't need to be like that. These seams are the center of the front and the back, hence our pocket being centered like that. So the bottom needed to be sewn where these were in the center. I don't know if I showed y'all that, but this is our lining, the turned inside out, of course. This is our outside, and again, I've cut this 15.5 inches long, and I need to go in about 1.5 inches on each side to accommodate the width of my tie that I'm going to use for my handle. Now, the tie is going to be on the outside, but I still need something for it to grab onto. And I need to be able to put my 1.5 inch rings on the side to hold the tie so I can make it adjustable. So 1.5 inches on each side, which on this it ends up being 3/4 inch, because that altogether would be 1.5 inches from one side to the other. So I've marked those, that little 3/4 inch in. Do you understand what I'm saying? It's 3/4 inch on this side and 3/4 inch on the back. So that makes the 1.5 inches. And then I want to go 5 inches down from the top, which this is a 5-inch ruler, 5 inches down to make our V. So I'm going to take the 3/4 inch mark here. I'm going to go down to the center, which is my V. There. And, whoops, don't let it unfold or get off whack. I'm going to do the same thing here. Okay, now that's the shape I'm going for our purse. So I am going to actually cut that out. And then when we sew the lining in, we'll accommodate this cut. I'm not going to cut the lining for this. I will sew down the lining and then it will be in that shape. Okay. Sorry, I'm just making sure that seam in the back isn't getting caught in this process. Be careful here. Don't cut too deep or you'll cut it all the way through the seam there. And that's a whole nother issue. Just carefully cut that seam. Don't want to cut too much. There we go. Now, all right, now that's the shape of our bag. And again, we've got 1.5 inches over here on the sides. That's going to take care of, it might be a little more than 1.5 inches, but that's okay because we're accommodating the seam allowance. So we need to put our lining in. Now I've turned the lining right side out. And I'm going to turn my bag as it is wrong side out. Okay, and now I want the pocket in the back, and this is the front because this has got the embroidery pieces on it. So I'm going to turn my pocket down like this, and I'm going to pull it up through here like this because we want right sides together, and we want that seam, those seams in the center just like the outside is. All right, I'm just kind of pulling the corners out of my lining here. Not mitering any corners or anything like that. This bag doesn't require that. And I am lining it up right below that hemline because I don't necessarily need this to be caught. I just want to hold it in place for right now. And you could pin it if you want. Put a couple of pins in it, or even use, well, let's go ahead and put a couple of pins in it. I just want to make sure that it doesn't move. And I can still feel it down there. So, all right, again, it doesn't have to meet the hemline because we're going to sew this hemline down. Okay. Now, back to the top. What we're going to need to do is we're going to need to put our tie in at least on one side. So what I've done is I've cut this one piece off of the short end or the small end of the tie, and I serged it across just for safety's sake. These can ravel. This one's silk. And we're going to put this inside the bag. And the way we do that is we're going to insert it like this between the lining and the bag. So we're going to pin it like that. Okay, we're just going to leave it in there. And then we're going to go around and make sure we've got this feeling pretty straight. And we're going to pin this. I did not worry about cutting the shape of the bag on the lining. I thought that would just complicate things. So I am just going to make sure that my seams are centered here and pin them here. And then we're going to go over and sew this all together. And what we're doing is just sewing around it just like we would if we were sewing the top of a regular straight bag, but we're going to sew it in the shape of the denim piece. And then we can cut this excess off before we turn it inside out. Okay, we have sewn in the lining. And I know this looks super funky, not like a bag you'd probably make. So the lining is right side out, facing the right side of the bag. We put it inside here, and this is the end of the tie, because I'm going to use this end to loop over. Here, I'll show you what I did. All right, here's the tie, and I cut off a piece of it, the little pointy end, and I serged it off, and then I threaded it through this bar. An adjustable bar, one of those that you can slide and adjust the size. And so it looks like this from the back or from the top. And you can see where my little piece is. This is threaded through the center piece. I threaded the other piece through the one I'm going to attach to this. And then I had to thread the big part of the tie through the top of the buckle. That was kind of, it wasn't that bad. It's a silky tie. So this is going to give me the ability to adjust it. But what I need to do before I finish it is I need to go over to the machine and tack this piece down so it doesn't move. So I'm going to do that off camera, but I'm just going to tack down this little raw piece that's going to be part of my adjustable strap. All right, now we're going to cut the lining down to the shape we have here. So I'm just going to slip in here and keep your hand underneath it. You do not want to cut more than you're supposed to. All right, now this part, the V, we're going to have to do some work with. But for right now, I'm just trying to get rid of the excess fabric. Okay. Our little squared off sides. That will be where the straps meet the purse. Scroll over here. Make sure your hand's under there. We do not want to redo the lining. And I am leaving a healthy bit of this strap here because I want this to be secure. I don't want it to take any chances. Now with the points, what we're going to do is we're just going to clip down as far as we can. And I'm also going to try and clear a little of this bulk out. Just that extra part of the seam. Because I don't want it to be bulky. And same with the other side. We're going to trim down as close as we can to the seam. Like that. I'm going to trim away some of the bulk of the denim. Use your best judgment on this. And if you turn it inside out and it's still too bulky, then you know you gotta trim some more. I think that's pretty good. And I did a lot of stitching over both of those points and over the ends to make, in fact, I stitched double around it. All right, here's our test. All right, we can pull it out like this. All right, let's see if I've got that pointing tool. Well, we'll use a pencil. I'll send it up in here. Oh, and just for knowledge sake, I started on this side, the side that doesn't have the pull already attached, because I'm going to use the full size of the tie to come over it. So if there was any bulk left in this piece, then it would just be concealed by that. There wasn't a lot. I just let you know that's why I did that. All right. And push our lining out here. Get all our fuzzies out of the way. Whoop, it's in there. Whoop, whoop. Okay, we have turned it inside out. I went ahead and top stitched around the edge there just to make sure it's nice and crisp. This is our tie piece that we're going to use to attach the handle. I also went ahead and sewed down that piece that attaches to the buckle that slides for sizing. So what we're going to do, first thing we're going to do is we're going to attach this. And I made it where the wrong side of the tie is facing out because I want it to fold over like this. So I'm going to make sure it's all straight. I'm going to take my piece, tie, and pull it through like that. And then I'm going to sew it very close to the bag right there because I want this piece to hang. I want it to look like it's part of the tie. So I want it to hang. So I'm going to go over to the machine and I am simply going to sew across there. If you can see that this way. I'm going to sew across there. And again, making this tie piece long so it kind of hangs down like a tie. Then what we will do with the other side is we will make sure it's still straight. And I am simply going to go sew a line around this top here to attach it. I want this to be free form, free flapping, whatever. And I want it to hang over the side of the front just a little bit, not a whole bunch, maybe about 4 or 5, almost 5 inches, I guess, if you count from the top down. But I don't want it to quite touch my embroidery, so I just want it to be a part of this, hanging over. So you got the tie over here and the tie over here. Okay, here comes the challenging part for me. I'm kind of a pattern kind of person, so freestyle, asymmetric stuff, that kind of, I know that's asymmetric, but you know what I mean, it kind of throws me off. So I've got a bunch of scraps here that I've been sorting through, and I want to add like a fringe to the to the bottom of the bag. So, there's still got to be some rhyme and reason to the way I put this together. And I'm just putting it over the top just for right now. These are pieces of the lace collar that I just cut in 1-inch strips. And just kind of parceling them out here to start kind of like a baseline. All right. Now, of course, these are going to be tucked up inside this. They're not going to hang on the front. Okay, I think I've got it the way I like it. It's all spread out. I added in some of this. This is velvet. It is ancient. I don't know where there is any kind of date on it per se, but me personally, the store this was bought at, TGNY, has been going for a long time. So this is beyond, this is vintage and then some. But it's chocolate colored. So I added it in to kind of break up the lighter colors. I think it works. I pinned it down, sort of. But I think I might have to roll it or something to get it over to the machine. But all I'm going to do is run right in the ditch on that hemline. I am just going to sew that down and catch all of these at the same time. Then the only thing we got to worry about is the closure. And I'm thinking about this big red button, and maybe a piece of this chocolate to go on to hook around it. Now I should have put this in the bag when I sewed it around with the lining, but I just wasn't sure what I was going to do closure wise yet. So we're just going to add it, and it's not going to fray. This velvet's not going to fray. So we'll add it to the inside and then tack our button down. I think the red button, I thought at first this was pink on the tie, but it's more red than it is pink. So I think it will work just fine and make a statement. Okay, everybody, what you think? Fringy, nice tie, very comfortable strap. And oddly enough, I was worried that it being silky that it wouldn't hold in the buckle. But this is holding up really well. I think you could put quite a bit of weight in this before it would even think of slipping, if it would. So it's lined. It's got a pocket inside. I'm super pumped. This is my next craft show wear. I'm going to be wearing this at a craft show. I don't carry a purse regularly, but I'm liking this. So if y'all had a good time, if you like what we made, by all means, like, subscribe. Let me know what you think, and I will catch you on the flip side of our next project.